Hey, you guys, welcome back. My name is Brad. This is the Firefighter's Financial Toolbox. I'm just going to move myself up out of the way here. I had a question asked by a viewer, and he asked me how they determine the IRA contribution limits. And I told him it's based on inflation, but it gave me an idea to make a video. So here we're doing. So let's go look. Annually, the IRS sets the maximum IRA contribution limits based on inflation, measured by the CPI. There are limits for individual contribution and age 50 plus catch-up contribution, and since 1998, a non-working spouse's contribution. Now remember, to do the non-spouse's contribution, you have to have enough earned income to cover both. But I thought it would be neat to take a look at how long it's been going. So like the 401k that started in the early 70s, you guys, the IRA limit started, and actually started in 1974. So if we scroll all the way down here, we see that 1974 to 1976, the IRA contribution limit was $1,500. Now back then, all you could do was traditional. And then in 1977 and all the way up to 1981, they added a $250 non-working spouse contribution. In 1982, that went up to $2,000 for the working spouse and stayed at $250 for the non-working spouse. And it stayed that way, you guys, all the way up until 1997. Now, 1997 was a pivotal year because that was the year the Roth IRA came out. And when they came out with the Roth IRA, the limit didn't change in 1998 from 2000, but what it did add was it added the spousal contribution, which was also $2,000. And that stayed the same from 1998 until 2001. Now, if we scroll up a little bit further, we see that in 2002, the limit went up to $3,000 for the working spouse and $3,000 for the non-working spouse. That was also the first year they added the 50 and over catch-up. Now, that stayed at $500, or it started at $500, and that stayed the same until 2004. In 2005, the limit went up to $4,000 for the working spouse and the non-working spouse. But again, it didn't change the catch-up. That didn't change until the next year in 2007. 2007, the contribution limit stayed $4,000, but they upped, 2006. This contribution limit stayed at $4,000, but the catch-up went up to $1,000. And it stayed there for 2006 and 2007. Then once again in 2008, the contribution limit went up to $5,000, and that was for the working spouse and the non-working spouse. Now, the contribution limit for the 50 and over stayed at $1,000, and it has not gone up. But from 2008 to 2012, the contribution limit for everyone else was $5,000. Finally, in 2013, and all the way through 2018, the contribution limit for both the working spouse and the non-working spouse was $5,500. Again, the 50 and over stayed at $1,000. In 2019 was when we got our last raise, you guys. In 2019 through 2020, the contribution limit for both IRA types, traditional and Roth, are $6,000 for the working spouse and $6,000 for the non-working spouse. And again, the 50 plus catch-up is stuck at $1,000. Now, because we've had really high inflation this year in 2022, in 2021, and it didn't go up, it's fair to think that hopefully we'll get a bump in our contribution limits in 2023. What do you guys think? Should they bump it up mid-year since we've had such big inflation this year? Personally, I think it would be a great idea, but you guys let me know what you think. All right, I hope you got something out of this, you guys. It was an interesting question, and it got me thinking, you know what? I want to look back and see how it's gone up. Now, you see, since 1997, we've only gone up $4,000 for our IRA limits. It's not a huge increase considering the inflation that we've seen in that said 25 years, but it's a work in progress. All right, you guys, I hope you got something out of this. If you did, do me a favor, drop me that like. All right, we'll see you. Thanks.